Welcome to the favorites presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. The offseason heat has been turned up to 100 in the NFL. Let's welcome in the crew, the first lady of the pod, Miss Kendra Middleton, the prime minister of primers, Evan Abrams, and we have a special guest joining us. I'm your host, Brandon Kravitz, but let's welcome in a giant round of applause for the one, the only, fellow Action Network fiend, Chris Raybon, joining the show right now. Chris, welcome to the Tomfoolery channel. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited. This is my first pod with you. This is my first pod with Kendra. So, I mean, I'm ready to go. Evan, veteran here, but I'm just happy to be on with y'all. And I think there's a lot to talk about. It's been a very interesting free agent period, and I'm still kind of get over the shock of this Bam Adebayo 83-point game, though. That's kind of where my head's at.
Yes, right, I'm glad that you brought that up. I don't want to overly glaze you here, but you are a legend in my eyes. The content that you put out every football season has been absolute food for me, and the fact that we get to chop it up here as NFL free agency wave 1, maybe even wave 2 is wrapping up, an absolute treat. So thanks for spending some time with us first and foremost. But you brought up something that I wanted to spin into an NFL discussion. So this one's for the panel. Give me the NFL equivalent, if you can pluck one out of your memory bank, of an occurrence that is similar to what Bam Adebayo did. So let me lay the groundwork for this question so you understand where I'm going with this. Bam Adebayo is a good NBA player. He's an all-star. But if I said you didn't watch it, someone in the NBA the other night scored 83 points, how many guesses would you have to roll through before you got to Bam Adebayo as the name? I think most of us would probably rattle off about 25 to 30 names before getting to him. Is there
58?
Maybe even more. I'm not even sure he would have been my first guess on the Heat for this. Yeah.
That's correct.
Raybon, we'll start with you. Is there a random but decent player in the NFL that you can think of that has put up a stat line that would be similar to this, as close as we can get?
For me, it's got to be Nick Foles in the 7 touchdowns. Like that's the one that stands out. Like it's tied for the record. I think 7 other players got there, so it's not as exclusive as 81 and 100, but it's still Nick Foles, and I know he won the Super Bowl, but it's Nick Foles. So for me, and that actually makes him a little more like Bam. The fact that he actually did win a Super Bowl. I believe it was that season or the few seasons later. So yeah, it's got to be Nick Foles in that 7 touchdown game in I think it was November of 2013.
Was he on the Eagles at that time, if I remember correctly?
Riley Cooper put up a monster stat line in that game, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, you probably could use him. The Kevin Ogletree game comes to mind for the Cowboys on opening day, but it wasn't a record. So it's got to be Nick Foles in the 7 touchdown. Easy.
That's a good one. It's hard to find a one-for-one comparison because NFL player rankings and NBA player rankings are so different. It's much more direct as far as where you would put Bam in the hierarchy of the association. Evan, what about you? Is there one that comes to mind?
I don't know. I was thinking about like Matt Flynn, but I feel like Bam Adebayo is much better.
Much
than
better,
Matt
but
Flynn.
That is a good call out.
But yeah, I was trying to come up with like a comp
performance, if I remember correctly. I think.
Yeah, it was like the yards. I mean, he just played absolutely lights out. But it's somebody who hasn't had like a lot of playing time compared to Bam, who's like an everyday starter.
Matt Flynn would be more like Jeremy Lin, I think.
That's fair. That's fair. Like, what about? I think a lot of people have mentioned this, but Matt Schaub had like a really crazy game. I think he threw for like 530 yards. But even Bam is better than Matt Schaub. So I feel like even that doesn't do it very well at justice.
Like
how about this? Oh, sorry. I was gonna say what I got one that I want to see if any of you guys if you could name the team that this guy was on. I'll give you a lot of props. It was in 2009. A running back.
I got it. I'm gonna
ran for the third most of all time. Third most yards of all time. Yeah,
buzz.
Who is it?
Jerome Harrison. Browns.
Jerome Harrison. Yeah, 286 yard game, still the third most in NFL history. Only 10 yards off the record of Adrian Peterson that was set just a couple years before that. So yeah, that one kind of stands out too.
That's the
I
answer.
mean, like Ryan Fitzpatrick when he threw like 6 touchdowns against in like opening day for the Bucks.
I think he did it like back-to-back games too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember getting a king's ransom for him in fantasy. Kendra, what about you?
I have to say, I don't know if you guys know this, but Bam Adebayo is engaged to Asia Wilson. And if they decide to have children, the absolute avenger that they are about to raise, insane. But I went with this one for a very specific reason. One, I went with Alvin Kamara's 6 touchdowns on Christmas in 2020 against the Minnesota Vikings because I feel like the role that they play for their teams is quite similar and their careers are a little bit similar. And 2, because Kamara did this with 155 yards rushing that game. So he got all the accolades, but it's kind of the same way that he did it with all the free throws. Like it's kind of cheating. They just lined you up and said, all right, you're about to hit this record. Let's go out there. Let's do it. So I think that Alvin Kamara, not only just his career, but the way that they both got these games done were very similar to me.
They're similar players. You're right.
Yeah,
I like
that's a good one too. That's a good one too, because Kamara, like Bam is not usually like a scorer like that. Like he's a
not
decent
the quarterback
scorer
of their team. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Kamara is known as like not a touchdown guy. Like that's usually his weakest stat. Is like touchdowns. He was like a big yards per carry, big receptions guy early in his career, but they would take him out a lot at the goal line. So even him being the guy to get 6 touchdowns, yeah, that's a good one.
Last nominee, wasn't there a game where Brandon Marshall had like 20 catches, if I remember correctly?
Yeah,
he's kind of a Brandon Marshall and Bam Adebayo would be very similar in terms of their
I like your George
hierarchy.
Kittle comparison too.
Shout out to our producer Gifford Gould. That was his nomination. For Kittle, I think maybe slightly better, but again, tough with the 1-for-1. So we still have a load to get to. NFL free agency was electric, and we're gonna give Raybon the floor for a full breakdown and throw a bunch of questions his way. 2 things off the beaten path, real quick. One, I just got back home from my son's field day. It was field day at our local elementary school. And so I was stationed at Station 6, and I was overseeing the potato sack race. But do you guys remember field day from back in the day? Because I remember this being the absolute best when I was a kid, but I also remember keeping score. Like I remember there being a winner at the end of field day, and there was none of that going on where I was. It was just a madhouse, which I don't want to sound like a boomer here, but I think we stopped keeping score at some point. But Kendra, do you recall field day?
Yeah, I definitely do. Do you guys remember the big like rainbow thing that you would put above you and you'd have to like run from one side to the other? That scared the shit out of me. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Are you talking about like where you would like wave
that
the
thing
big flag?
scared me so bad. I wouldn't do
intense.
that. However, I loved dodgeball. We would do dodgeball, and that was my favorite activity. I definitely loved field day.
Chris Raybon, you strike me as a kickball guy.
Now, first of all, I never heard of field day. I don't know
what that is.
I'm guessing it's just when kids play a bunch of games.
You are correct. It is
okay.
It's like the Olympics on crack.
My school
you never had field
I went to a
day?
school in a hood in the Bronx. We barely had a working basketball.
Every day was
Jacksonville,
field day.
Florida.
Oh, word. Hey, man. The Jacksonville drill scene, all my favorite drill rappers are dead now, like from Jacksonville. It's kind of crazy. But on another note, RIP Fulvio.
I'm blown away right now by this.
But, I mean, we did have those we had this thing called Fun Day, but that was on Halloween. But we kind of did the same thing where they just opened a gym and we would play a bunch of games. We play like dodgeball and stuff. But my favorite thing that we used to play was Duck Duck Goose. But so talk about some boomer shit.
The Duck Duck Goose guy. You really said not kickball, and he said Duck Duck Goose. Actually,
I mean, it's his thing.
Evan, you live in the Northeast as well. Am I just totally off base? Is this a Florida thing because we can be outside all year?
Yeah.
No, I'm laughing so much because I went to field day. There was tons of field days. I just think Chris Raybon had a very different upbringing and school experience. And he should be individualized here. And I mean,
my nickname
every day was
was
field day.
Guess my nickname was
Shmoney.
Goose.
White boy. I was the
Yeah.
only white kid in my class for the first 9 years of school, like until high school, and I'm only half white, so that'll give you that'll give you an indication.
The duck goose is making sense.
Yeah.
I wasn't far off with Goose then, with my guess. We're still a lot to get to on the pod, but first, a word about DraftKings from the First Lady. The Favorites podcast is sponsored by DraftKings Sportsbook, and in partnership with DraftKings, our listeners get a great offer. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets instantly. If sports betting is not available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all of the fun with DraftKings Pick 6 and have a shot to win cash prizes. To get started, use promo code FAVORITES when signing up with DraftKings. Again, use code FAVORITES when signing up. Bet $5 to get $200 back in bonus bets instantly. The crown is yours. All right, Kendra, before we get off and running with NFL free agency, Stuckey is not here today. He is buried in college basketball conference tournament play, the NCAA tournament coming up. So figured we might lose him for a couple of weeks here around this time of year. That means that the onus is on you to come up with the question of the week.
So production has informed me that it is Girl Scout Day, National Girl Scout Day. I love a Girl Scout cookie. So I would like to know what your favorite is and if you think that there is one that is overrated, because I believe that there is an obvious correct answer to both of these.
Yeah, I'll take this first. I actually think I'm pretty confident I am the most recent purchaser of Girl Scout cookies on the podcast today. I was at a farmer's market 2 weeks ago, and the Girl Scouts approached me, and you know that you can't say no to those cute kids. So I bought a box and thought I would go off the beaten path. I have a feeling Kendra is going to say that Thin Mint is overrated. They had Thin Mint. I chose to go in a different direction. They had Rocky Road. Bad mistake. And it's just sitting there in the pantry. It's not good enough to justify the calorie count. So they're just rotting in my pantry right now. But I think peanut butter is probably the way to go. That was the error on my part.
Evan.
I don't eat a ton of Girl Scout cookies, so I am confirming what each of these categories are and what they look like. I believe the caramel delights are the ones I probably would like the most.
I'm not surprised you're not a Girl Scout cookie guy.
I'm not a huge one, and I believe I just looked. There's like a jelly one. If there's a jelly one, I'm a jelly and chocolate guy, so maybe that would be the one I would go with.
Okay,
Raybon's like,
Raybon.
we don't eat cookies in the hood. Next question.
I seriously though, I never met a Girl Scout in my life that I knew was a Girl Scout. Never saw. Yo, the only candy I used to buy off kids was like kids used to steal those like Snickers, like those Snickers bars from the bodegas and sell them on the train, or the Welch's fruit snacks, and they would sell them on the subway train for a discount. That's the only time matter of fact, I did buy some Girl Scout cookies once, but I never actually received them because I was just doing it I think it was our one of our prior CEOs, PK. I think his daughter had like a Girl Scout thing, and I just like bought a bunch of boxes, but like didn't actually want them delivered. So yeah, I've never had a Girl Scout cookie. Never.
I think you just made a great point. I don't think I've ever met someone I know in real life as an adult that was a Girl Scout ever.
Huh.
I'm like
it's just a cookie company.
It's just a cookie company, but I didn't know her.
I like literally feel I feel like it's a money laundering scheme. However, the correct answer, the best ones are Thin Mints. The worst are tag-alongs. My follow-up question before we get back to hashtag sports, the big argument up here in New England, because weed is legal here, all of the Girl Scout moms will go prop them up outside of the dispensaries.
Smart.
And the Girl Scouts will sell their cookies outside of the dispensary. I personally think that this is fair game and good business, but it has been a big conversation up here. Do you guys think that selling Girl Scout cookies outside of the dispensary to vulnerable people is fair game?
It's like the gym that has the bakery in front.
Yeah, my college gym shared a wall with a Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
And that was tough.
Yeah, like what's the difference between that and Smoothie King posting up at a gym selling protein smoothies? Same
exactly.
thing.
Okay,
yeah, That's just good business, right?
Good
there.
business. Okay, that was my wow. I really think that this might be a money laundering scheme now. I
We
don't
all-
know a single Girl Scout.
I did not think when we went live here that we were going to uncover the grand schemes
It was
of the
probably
Girl
a thing.
Scouts.
There probably was Girl Scouts back in the Boomer days, but then they were like, you know what? We got the cookies. We don't need the Girl Scouts. It was just a brilliant business decision by
It's
them.
Women's Month. We're not gonna be mean to the Girl Scouts.
Somebody
Are there
woke
Boy
up one day.
Scouts? I've never met a Boy Scout either. Like
I
they
know
don't
plenty
sell-
of
they
Boy
def-
Scouts.
They definitely don't sell cookies. That's
I know
for sure.
so many Boy Scouts.
That
The boys that I
sounded
know that can
worse
tie
than
a
it
knot,
needed to.
absurd.
NFL free agency was electric and eclectic, as are we in the first
So is
wave.
that intro. So is that first 2 minutes of the podcast.
Chris Raybon's here to help us break it down. So let's get into it. Let's start with what in the world is going on in Baltimore. I'm curious how they actually feel about this. Eric DaCosta, the GM, pretended like he was just up all night in tears. I'm not sure I believe him. So Max Crosby, if you haven't heard, failed his physical. He was in Baltimore. He was putting up pictures from a hotel at the Inner Harbor and then failed his physical. And now the trade has been rescinded and the Ravens will get their 2 first-round picks back. Raybon, how do you think the Ravens actually feel about this, especially now they wound up with Trey Hendrickson?
I think they felt great because number one, apparently they were kind of courting both at the same time. So they kind of knew one way or the other they were going to get one of the top 2 edge rushers on the market. They got the guy from their division rival. And remember, Tomlin's no longer in Pittsburgh. Who knows what they got at quarterback? The Browns are the Browns. So like this might shrink back to that like initial 2-team race that we always think it's going to be. And then Pittsburgh kind of mucks things up. So they not only steal the edge rusher from their division rival, but they also don't have to give up 2 first-round picks. And what's one of the things the Ravens do really well? Draft. So I think it's a win for them. I think they had a really good, like they kind of framed it as, oh, we had 2 plan A's. I actually think that's true. And I think a lot of people are going to be looking at the Ravens like there's still a stench because, you know, they lose their coach. They you know, the way this last season ended, just all the blown opportunities. But this actually might be a good thing for them. Like high-end needle mover, you know, new regime. They're kind of getting rid of some of these other guys that like the Patrick Ricards of the team that were like important, but probably not worth as much money or snaps as they were getting. So this could be good for the Ravens, really good. So I'm not as down on it as a lot of people. I think that whatever, like they were always going to get the best of most teams in deals anyway. They're just a well-run team. So if it has any repercussions as far as teams wanting to do business with them, they're still always like the Jets and the Titans and teams you can fleece.
That was going to be my follow-up. We talked before everyone kind of got on the pod about how do I think that this is the better move for the Ravens? Yes, I just don't like how they did it. And I think that it's definitely going to leave a bitter taste in a lot of teams' mouths who want to do business with them in the future. I guess I can open it up to the class. Do we think that this is going to hurt the Ravens in the long term? And also, especially now that it's become public news that both of them were in the building at the same time.
I genuinely think they wanted to sign both of them. Tyler Linderbaum went out the door and they needed to strengthen a strength. And if they're going to sign one and they have the money to sign the other, you just get both ends of the D line figured out. That would be an elite defensive front if you had those two coming off of the
drinking the Kool-Aid, Kravitz.
But I started to buy into that more over the last 24 hours that they actually wanted to sign both. But you said, are they in worse shape? I think they're in better shape. They get an elite edge rusher and they keep their picks. They're in a great spot.
I think it was the right move. I'm just saying it looked smelly.
Oh, it definitely looked.
The whole thing is
shady.
really smelly. If I had to pick between Crosby and Hendrickson, I'd take Crosby, but I would also then take my 2 first-round picks. So I would take the Hendrickson side of this. I think it's pretty much as simple as that. Like player to player, it's a really good comparison. There's age, there's all sorts of different stats you can look at. But when you add in the fact that they're good at drafting and they get their 2 first-round picks back, I mean, whether they had both guys in the building at the same time or not, they just looked at option A and option B and said, "Oh, we can get out of this and do this." And I think they just took the better option because they're a smart team.
And Trey's also a diva. I wouldn't are you kidding? The way that I don't know if you guys remember last year.
Oh, I'm sorry that he wanted to get paid.
This is Saquon Barkley to the Eagles.
Outside of the window when he was on the way to Florida, like he was in a Michelle Branch music video. Give me a break.
He's gonna get like 9 sacks combined in the 2 games against the Bengals on Joe Burrow. Like he's gonna single-handedly be the reason they missed the playoffs again or something like this. He's gonna be a man possessed, and Hendrickson plus 2 first-rounders or Hendrickson plus Crosby. I think you take Hendrickson plus 2 first-rounders, like Evan said, because I think Hendrickson plus Crosby would have been an overkill. It would have been a reaction to the Ravens of the past. But they're trying to move on from that. They're trying to move on from those days. Minter, he did like amazing work with a Chargers defense that was on paper very average. So he'll be able to scheme up this defense without needing 2 of the top 4 edge rushers in the NFL. Essentially, like I think those first-round picks, I think they're better for having the first-round picks.
The question to me is more about the Raiders.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Of course, it's going to smell. It's the Raiders.
But what do they
not
do
even
now?
that though. Like yeah,
they're screwed.
Go ahead, Evan.
No, I was more going to say like talent-wise, like you keeping Crosby plus doing everything they did in free agency. I mean, I guess it depends on what you think about Mendoza, but they've definitely gotten better in a really difficult division. So kind of tough to figure out.
I will also say, just kind of looking at the Raiders again, and it kind of plays into what we think about the long-term impact for the Ravens and just everything. Some of it's just like to be determined, right? Because we still don't exactly know how much credence there was to failing his physical, right? Like, because first of all, what we do know is the Raiders tried to trade him. The Ravens could have had him. So 2 teams now essentially said no to Max Crosby. So once he steps on the field this year, or if he can step on the field this year, then we'll know more. But until then, and also what if the Raiders trade him again or move him again somewhere else, what do they get in return now?
I was going to say, what's the asking price?
Yeah, right. So all those things I think will kind of shape the final kind of result, but I think it's still to be determined on the Raiders side. But I think for the Ravens, I think you're fine getting Trey Hendrickson, keeping your picks, and you have a guy running the team that specializes in defense, and I think we'll get it done without needing to pay that much. Especially because you got Lamar, like you're already one of those teams. It's not like you're in your rookie quarterback window. So I think that would be a move for like a Patriots or somebody like that if they wanted to do something like that. But the Ravens, you're paying Lamar. So
it's funny that you bring that up because 1, what is the new asking price for him realistically? But 2, you have to look at how Tom Brady looks in all of this, because he said that he didn't want to do business for Max Crosby with the Patriots. So who are their realistic options now? Because I also thought the Patriots, but Brady kind of shot himself in the foot saying he didn't want to do business with New England. And who could the potential takers be?
I don't think there's going to be many teams that are going to give away 2 first-round picks if that's going to be what.
No,
and they've already stated that's
1.
there. And they've stated already that that's what they're still looking for. I believe it's keeping Crosby or getting that type of stash. And I think at this point, they're probably going to end up keeping Crosby or giving him away for less would be probably how this goes. And I would also assume he'll be ready for September. Like, I don't necessarily think that's the issue. I think it's like what you see in the medical to going forward. Like, how much time do you actually have with this guy based off the medicals? Now, it could all be BS, right? Like what the Ravens could be saying could be absolute crap in this scenario. But either way, it could, stop other teams.
I mean, I think that possibility is going underlooked. Like,
oh wow,
again, like the Raiders traded this guy. They're bringing in a lot of people. They traded this guy, and then the Ravens, a team that is clearly in a win now, like new regime, like could definitely have used him. And the Ravens that admitted that they were fine with signing both said no. So it's like, and he's still back on the Raiders. It's not like other teams immediately, like there could have been like this is like 2-day old news now. You know, like other teams could have swooped in already. He's still a Raider. So in my opinion, there's definitely something up with this. It's kind of reminds me of like that when it's a little different because it happened later in the offseason, but that year Christian McCaffrey, they were like, oh yeah, he's going to Germany or something to get something with his calf, and then it was like, oh, he essentially missed like the entire season pretty much, and it's just like something's up with this because I don't think the Ravens would have just turned, like they agreed to the deal. It's not like I don't think it's as simple as okay, they decided Hendrickson was better, because I think Crosby is probably a tiny bit better. So
yeah.
I think there could be some smoke here.
We had our best and least, our favorites in terms of the signings and free agency. We did that episode already, but we want to get your thoughts on that. Your favorite and least favorite signing from the first couple waves of free agency, Chris Raybon.
Favorite, easily, the Rams acquiring McDuffie and Watson, the two corners from the Chiefs. If you look at the Rams, this is a Super Bowl team almost every year under Sean McVay, a Super Bowl contender. Matthew Stafford's still at the top of his game. The offense will be fine. The defense, great under Shula. That, you know, the D line, a lot of young guys there. Front seven is solid overall. The issue was at cornerback. Last year, they gave up 19 touchdowns in the regular season, just the Ram corners alone. If you look at the other playoff teams, Philadelphia's corners, 4. San Francisco, 9. Carolina, 11. Seattle, 12. Chicago, 13. Green Bay, 17. So the Rams corners gave up almost double as many touchdowns as like most of the other playoff teams. So they severely needed an upgrade at that position. They've got it. Watson hasn't given up a touchdown since 2023. And, you know, McDuffie, we know he's a top-end corner, and both of these guys can play man coverage too. So I think it gives the Rams a lot more options. They also re-signed Curl, Wake they have, who's just an amazing player as well. So I think when you look at the Seahawks, how did they win it all? Their secondary was amazing. The Eagles the year before that, secondary, amazing. So the Rams now have a chance to have an amazing secondary, and the team around that secondary is top notch. So that was easily my favorite.
Would you bet them plus 750 right now to win the Super Bowl?
I would. It's not a ton of value, but I do like to kind of bet the Rams and the Niners and and whoever else I think in the NFC every year, because it's usually either a McVay team, a Shanahan team, the Eagles. Like it's kind of who it is. It's been until the Seahawks kind of stepped in the picture last year, but it could have easily been the Rams last year. It could have easily been the Niners last year if they didn't get so hurt. So yeah, I think, you know, I would hope to get I would hope to get it down to at least 10-1. You know, these right now it's probably at a peak because coming off this signing, you know, there's going to be some other contenders that are going to probably make some more moves and things like that. You know, the Rams always kind of move their draft picks, but still, I wouldn't mind it. I think they're right there. Like this is just a really good move for them, and it hurts the Chiefs, honestly.
Was it harder for you to come up with your favorite or your least favorite free agent move?
The favorite was easy. So yeah, I would say least favorite because there's multiple. It's kind of, so
that's usually how it works in free agency.
Yeah.
There's so many dumb moves that go on. I often say that if people get so caught up in the headlines and you want your team to make moves, usually if your team is not even in the news during the second wave of free agency, you're winning free agency by just not getting involved in this shit. But who's your least favorite?
I think I gotta go with, if it's just one move, David Montgomery. And I know it's more of like it was a trade, but the David Montgomery to the Texans thing, because it's like, number one, clearly an overreaction to the way they exited the playoffs when Woody Marks had like 18 carries for negative 18 yards or whatever it was in that game against the Patriots. So they go out and get Montgomery. They trade multiple draft picks for him. I was already coming into last season, like I was telling Kerner every flex pod we did, I was like, this it's not going to be a good season for him. This is the year you got to get off the Montgomery train. He clearly regressed last year. And now the Texans are doing this. And I just don't like many of the Texans moves on offense, period. I mean, it just doesn't look like there's any rhyme or reason to it. I don't necessarily think, their offensive line moves are moving the needle either. But speaking of offensive line, if it's more of a collective team, that just least favorite, the Browns. Their whole offensive line is gone. I don't think they signed anybody that's like a needle mover on the offensive line. They overpaid for pretty much everyone they did sign. They're not drafting first, so their quarterback situation is still up in the air. They didn't get Willis. So yeah, the Browns as a team, the Montgomery trade for the Texans as an individual move, because I just think, you could have just signed Kenneth Gainwell, Rico Dowdle, somebody like that, and you wouldn't have had to give up multiple draft picks to get that done, and they would have been very affordable. It's kind of like how the Cowboys last year, I know it ended up working out because they got Williams, Javonte Williams, but first they gave up Dowdle, and then he ended up signing somewhere like in Carolina for really cheap, where it was like you could have avoided all that shuffling, and they ended up needing a second back at times anyway, and they could have just had Dowdle in the building again and just didn't. So I just think I don't think the Texans needed to do this. I think their issue was offensive line, and it's like they're just kind of running in place there. Like they moved on from Howard, but it's still just not like Brown is an injury risk. Ursary he was okay, but I think the Texans are still gonna have issues.
I was gonna say, you talked about players you loved, didn't love, needle movers, a least favorite team. Is there a team that has done a bunch of stuff or has sat properly and not done anything that you're happy with, or that has moved the needle for you in a positive way, maybe getting closer to the window on winning a division or a Super Bowl chase or something like that?
In a positive way, like a team that's like essentially been quiet, you mean?
No, I'm asking, is there a team that, like, whether they stayed quiet and that's been good for them, or they made a bunch of moves and that's been good for them? Who's like who do you think is the most positive outcome?
So I actually think, and this is going to be probably a controversial one, but I think the Titans, they made a lot of moves. And here's the thing. A lot of their moves are panned, right? It's like, okay, they're getting all these former Giants and they're doing all this stuff. But remember, these highly drafted quarterbacks over the last few years, they've usually had a really good year at some point in their first 3 years. Like Bryce Young, third year, Panthers go to the playoffs. Jaden Daniels year one, Stroud every year, Drake May, big year. So if Cam Ward makes a jump, the Titans had so much money, they were going to have to spend it regardless. They spent a lot of money in free agency on defense. Salah is, he's had really good defenses wherever he goes. And they got, some pieces on offense too. And they still have the draft and they don't need a quarterback. So you could be looking at the Titans as like, okay, everyone's going to think they're going to be terrible. Everyone's going to pick them in last place easily. But
I was going to say the Colts in that division.
Well, yeah, it depends. If Daniel Jones comes back on schedule, it makes it a little more interesting. But yeah, I just think the Titans have at least the potential, and that it could go really bad. But I think they have the potential at least. But the Rams move stand out to me just because that was already a team that was, even if they don't make these moves, they're a Super Bowl contender. They addressed their biggest weakness twice over with two high quality players. Like both of those guys were in the top 13 among over 90 qualified corners in PFF's grades last season. And their safeties, they also have 3 excellent safeties. So like you could have like a Seahawks level secondary if you're the Rams. So I think it would be the Rams, but a low key team, depending on how their draft goes, the Titans could be interesting.
Mike Evans, that was my favorite move of free agency. The 49ers landing him with the infrastructure that they already have in place, assuming the power plant doesn't get in the way of his health. Do you think he has enough left to be a factor for the San Francisco 49ers?
He has enough left, absolutely. I don't love the move because he's old. And the Niners already he's old, and he's slow. And now he, for the first time in his career, was hurt. Like, or not, it's not the first time, but he was hurt to the point where he couldn't get his 1,000 yards. So it's like the Niners are kind of playing with fire here. Trent Williams, old, might be traded. Christian McCaffrey, old, not as fast anymore. Who's fast on their receiving core now? Kittle's been getting hurt. But like, I just feel like he's good. And I guess if you're not going to re-sign Jennings, like he's a good replacement for that. But it just worries me that like this era of Mike Evans' career could end up being like kind of like a lot of 2025 type Mike Evans seasons where it's like when he's on the field, Brock Purdy's throwing 380 yards and 4 touchdowns, but he only plays 7 or 8 games. So that's my worry with. So I like it from the sense of like they needed receivers, but I don't like that they're still a little old and slow at the skill positions.
That is what has happened already. We're going to keep Raybon around for tomorrow's episode. We're going to go through what's going to happen next. So, Chris, don't go anywhere. We're going to hold you there for 24 hours. We got another podcast coming your way on Friday, a special bonus episode. That'll do it for today. Special thanks to the producers, Gifford Gould, David Payne, Stats Hound Evan Abrams, of course, on with us today as well. Stucky somewhere out there in the college basketball universe. More great content coming up tomorrow with this man, Chris Raybon. As always, you can catch it right here on the Action Network YouTube page. We'll see you tomorrow right here on The Favorites, presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours.